Come out with us and play. Love your London. Have a banana.
Welcome to the final instalment on Islington, and today we will be bringing you Highbury and Islington. Later on in the episode we'll be visiting the former home of one of the country's national treasures, plus we'll be checking out the home of the Arsenal, both the new and the old. But we start off where else? At the station. Hello and welcome to Highbury and Islington. This is the final episode of our trip around Angel Islington, and we are here. Quite fitting that we finish here in Highbury and Islington, a station that is in Zone 2. There's been a station here since 1850. It was originally just called Islington. The Highbury bit was added in 1872. It used to be a really grand building designed by Edwin Henry Horne. You can actually see, well, this isn't the original building, you can see there the old entrance from 1904, no longer part of the station, but it's still there. The current building over here dates from the 1960s. It serves the Victoria line as well as two different branches of the Overground. It's both on the North London line of the Overground and the East London line of the Overground. It's also on the National Rail as part of the Great Northern Rail service, offering a quick service into Moorgate and the City of London. And the station is accessible. No toilets though, no toilets for anyone, neither able-bodied or with disabilities, so can't do everything, can they? So there's lots and lots of pubs around here, so it's not the end of the world if you do get caught short. Obviously here you have the famous Cock, a very, very well-known pub there, especially for football fans. Today actually Arsenal is playing against Southampton, so should be might meet up with a few Arsenal fans at some point today. I'm pretty sure we will, because we'll be going past the stadium. But as I said, you've got the famous Cock over here, you've got the Hen and Chickens Theatre over there. Really enjoy that place. We've seen a few plays upstairs and a few comedy nights. I remember we saw Rufus Hound and a few others in there. Now we spoke about Union Chapel, which is just over there in episode 4 of our Angel series. That's not the only musical venue around here. For the lovers of rock and indie music, they'll be much more familiar with the Garage over there. That used to be a long time ago. I'm sure you know the Town and Country Club in Kentish Town, which is now the O2, part of the O2 Behemoth. It's the Forum. Well, that used to be the Town and Country Club 2, and then it became the Garage. When it became the Garage, I believe the very first big gig was Pulp to play there.
Hello there. Okay, this is Paul.
Okay, well, we are here at number 29 Furlong Road, and it is here where...
Ooh, someone's coming out the door.
Hello, how are you? Because this is where Elton John used to live.
Yeah, Elton John, yeah.
We're doing a vlog about London. Here.
Right, yeah.
Would you like to talk on camera at all about what it's like to live in...
Renovation, man. He's renovating.
Oh, you're renovating, are you?
No, I'm just the decorator.
That's it. He's with him.
Oh, okay. Oh, right. Yeah. Well, Elton John used to live here.
Yeah.
We won't bother you. We're just filming. We're talking about the outside.
Yeah.
All right, brother.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
You want a photo inside too, or what?
Oh,
I'd love to. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Can you take the camera? I got to put my mask on, yeah?
Yeah.
All right. Excellent.
Oh, this is fantastic. This is unexpected. Thank you.
Go on in front.
You live down here, Chris?
Yes. Elton John lived here.
Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Oh, you can see he's just doing a nice job here.
We won't touch any walls. We're fine.
Don't touch any. Right. Wow. Okay. Well, the structure, he's renovating the whole place.
Okay. Oh, well, this is a perfect place to tell you a little bit about this place. This is where, in 1968, Elton John was sharing a flat with his fiancée, Linda Woodrow, and his friend and songwriter, Bernie Taupin. It was here where he made a half-assed attempt at suicide, basically turning the gas on, but opening the windows and putting a pillow down so his head would be comfortable. It was a call for help because he was so frustrated, as he didn't love Linda Woodrow and he didn't know how to tell her. And it was Taupin who found him here. I don't know if it is. Here is the oven. It won't be the same oven, but he was lying down on the floor. He was lying down on the floor like this, with his head on the pillow, but all the windows were open. So it was a sort of a call for help, and it worked.
What are you doing?
Trying to kill myself.
Yeah, but the door's open.
Yes, I know. Absolutely stinks, doesn't it, Bernie?
What about our joint publishing deal?
Don't worry, left everything to you.
Oh, yeah. Even the Bob Dylan albums.
Now, the experience was told in the very personal and autobiographical song, Someone Saved My Life Tonight, which was a single that came out in 1975. It was unusually long for a single. It was 6 minutes and 42 seconds. It was almost 12-inch length. But no, this was an ordinary 7-inch single. It's a highly personal song based on that event in this flat. It was the only single to be released from the Captain Fantastic and Brown Dirt Cowboy album, which also came out in 1975. And inside the album there's a scraps book and a lyric book. And if we turn to the lyrics page for Someone Saved My Life Tonight, there's a photo of the door of number 29 Furlong Road and the street sign. It really hasn't changed that much.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's what I mean back.
Okay.
Sorry.
Obviously the inside of the flat has changed a lot, but the outside looks almost exactly the same, as you can see from the photos that you're seeing on your screen right now from the little lyrics book inside that album. When you see things that haven't changed too much, it really gives you a nice warm feeling inside. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Is this the actual flat? We'll keep it running.
The kitchen there, but they cut it like or something.
This was, yeah.
This was the wall here.
This was all his, yeah.
Yeah, and that was the kitchen.
Right, okay, so what's the actual
Yeah, so
kitchen?
we make it one, you know?
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry for getting me.
And you're doing an absolutely beautiful job. It looks lovely. Thank you.
Okay then.
Oh, wow. That was great. Okay, so as I said, we have Southampton is going to be playing against Arsenal today. Quite an exciting match. This is going to be a real test for the 40-year-old Willy Caballero, who has just been signed by Arsenal. Sorry, who has just.
Gotta move it.
Who has. This is going to be a real test for Willy Caballero, who has just been signed by Southampton because their two main goalkeepers are both injured. So Willy Caballero, 40 years old, he's been out training with AFC Wimbledon in the lower divisions. He hasn't played for 15 months a proper game of football, so this is going to be a real test for him tonight. Good luck, Willy. ¡Mucha mierda!
¡Mucha mierda!
So we are here at the London Metropolitan University, or the London Met, as it's more familiarly known. But the reason for showing you this place is because this is where the Rocket is. The Rocket was a fantastic musical venue. Also got the great hall upstairs, which is a fantastic place. I've been to some great parties here over the decades. Returned to the Source. Obviously that was mainly in the Fridge in Brixton, but Return to the Source has had a few parties here in the early 90s. Mega Dog, of course. I've seen Osric Tentacles here. I think I've seen Orbital here as well. So it's a great venue. This university, unfortunately, does have a history of not being the best run university in the country. It's often sort of languishes down the bottom of those league tables. It's a shame really, because the staff are meant to be excellent and the students are really enthusiastic. But it was embroiled in a huge scandal where the government revoked the university's right in 2012 to sponsor new visa applications for non-EU students, largely because there was no testing of their English proficiency and the university wasn't very good at keeping tabs on attendance either. The visas of non-EU students who were studying were revoked, forcing students to face deportation in the middle of their courses, which is so tough on them. Can you imagine that extra stress of having to deal with possible deportation in the middle of your course after paying loads of money as well, because these were non-EU students. They weren't on Erasmus grants or anything like that. So as I said, not the best run of universities. It actually doesn't have a patron right now. The patron was Prince Andrew, but he stepped away from all public duties back in November 2019 for reasons I won't go into here, because this is a family channel. But if you want to become their patron, then there is an opening there for you. And talking of patrons, it's a lot cheaper, but you can become our patron via Patreon. Just a couple of quid a month. That will help us tick things over, and especially into the possibility of entering yet more social restrictions in the coming months. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to give us money. You can share this video, you can like this video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, add comments as well. All that helps with the YouTube algorithms. As I said, this place is a quite sort of like an interesting place. These are two buildings of the university. It's very odd, isn't it? That over there, that's a tower building finished in 1966. It's 45.72 metres tall. It used to regularly crop up in lists of London's ugliest buildings, which I think is a little bit unfair. But then the London Met had this very strange building built, and that building is the London Metropolitan University Graduate Centre, completed in 2004 by Studio Libeskind. It was really cheap for London. Now, on the Studio Libeskind website, it says that it cost just £3 million to build. But I actually have it on good authority that it actually the university only paid £1 million to have this built. So I don't know how the website says that it actually cost £3 million.
For $1 million, it sounds like a bargain.
It's an absolute bargain. I mean, it's not the most aesthetic places, but I don't really like that. I think it would look a lot better in Corten steel. I'm a big fan of Corten, that rusty red steel. But it would look amazing in Corten. I don't really like this surface very much, but for £1 million, which is what it apparently really cost, it's an absolute bargain. This whole area is going to be redeveloped in the coming years if it goes through, and apparently the regeneration of this whole complex is going to cost £125 million. This whole building is going to be changed. It's not going to be pulled down, but I think it's going to be, as far as I know, it's not going to be pulled down. It's going to be a very similar looking building here, but a bit shinier. But £125 million is an awful lot of money for a university, considering that place only cost £1 million. Although their website, the architect's website, said it cost £3 million. Strange. But what I do like, I mean, I think it would be a shame to change this building, largely because what I do like about this is a juxtaposition of the two styles. This brutalist 1966 building, and then this very modern, very weird, angular building next to it. I think that works. I think having that juxtaposition is really fun. Now over there you'll see Holloway Road Station. We're not covering Holloway Road Station in this series because Holloway Road is going to be part of another series. So we're not going to go any further up there. There's going to be lots to show you when we do get to Holloway, but we're not going there just yet because we want to go and check out the home of the Arsenal. It's just over there, and as you saw just now, Southampton are in town. Let's check out Arsenal Football Club. Okay, so we are at Benwell Roads Co-op. This is pretty much where Benwell Mansions once stood. This whole road layout has changed. This is Queensland Road. Queensland Road actually used to be just a bit over here. So Benwell Mansions was here. We're at the top of Benwell Road at the moment. In there, John Lydon, Johnny Rotten of the Sex Pistols, grew up when it was an old Victorian slum building. That's where he grew up. He had lots of beans in there, apparently, according to some of his interviews. He would always have his beans. He was a huge Arsenal fan. He never really liked the place so much. I suppose it's not the end of the world, it's been torn down. But he loved Arsenal, so in fact his building was torn down to make way for this new road, which was and for when the new Emirates Stadium was built in 2006-07 season. Let's go and check out the stadium now, because there's a lot of history, not about this stadium so much, but about the club itself. Hello, I'm going to be talking a little bit louder because unfortunately my lavalier microphone, the cable was broken, so it didn't charge. You may have had a bit of a clicking sound in some of the earlier footage. I apologise for that now. So we're actually not using the internal mic, so I'm going to have to speak quite a lot louder, so I do apologise about that. This here is one of the cannons, and this gives a sort of like a hint as to why the Arsenal is known as the Gunners and the fans are known as the Gooners, because it didn't used to be based down here. Arsenal Football Club used to be based in Woolwich, Woolwich Arsenal, and it started off as a South London club. It used to be the team for the munitions workers at the Woolwich Arsenal. In 1910 the club went into liquidation, but they were bought out by some businessmen. Their original idea was to merge the Woolwich team with Fulham FC, but the Football League blocked that. So in 1913 they moved the club here, well not here but just around the corner, to North London, and they moved to their stadium, the Highbury Stadium, which we'll be checking out in a moment. They moved here in 2006-2007 season, but when they moved to Highbury, obviously the fans who were based in Woolwich were dead against the idea, and the locals who lived here weren't really very happy about it either. When World War I started, Arsenal was 6th in the 2nd Division. After the war ended in 1919, the top division expanded from 20 teams to 22 teams. Derby County and Preston North End were promoted to the 1st Division. It was expected that the two relegated teams, Chelsea and Tottenham, would simply stay in the 1st Division and that there would be no relegation that year. But no, Chelsea stayed, and Tottenham, who were 20th before the war, went into a ballot.
May I ask you what your agenda is? Sorry.
Yeah, we're doing a vlog about the whole of London.
Oh, okay.
So at the moment we're doing one on Angel Islington.
Oh, okay.
And
I'm
obviously
from the area. I'm from Angel Islington.
Oh, you're from Angel Islington.
Yeah.
Do you mind speaking on camera? Let me give you
But it's not going to be on TV, is it?
No, it's YouTube. It's just YouTubers.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's a very small channel. What's your name?
Jamie.
Jamie. Fantastic. I'm Tristán. And you've been an Arsenal fan all your life, I take it?
It's since I can remember, yes.
Since you can remember. And what are your thoughts for today's game, do you think?
Today's game is it's a must-win.
It's a must-win.
It's a must-win. It's a mediocre team that we're playing.
Right.
But the way we're going at the moment, you know, as I say, we need to win, but I'm not confident.
You're not confident?
No.
I think Willie Caballero, he's the 40-year-old goalkeeper from Southampton.
Exactly,
he's going to have something to prove, isn't he?
Yes,
so
I think so.
He's going to want, especially after he's been wound up a little bit. So,
exactly.
So I think he's going to. He might. I think maybe a draw, but
a draw. Do you know what? I'll go with that.
Go with a draw. 2-2.
I won't be happy with it, but
and are you happy with Arteta?
I think it's too early for him.
Too early.
It's too early. I think he's. I don't think he's ready for this challenge yet.
No.
He's never managed a team before.
Yeah.
And to come into an institution like Arsenal.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're too soon to get rid of Unai Emery. Because there was a communication problem, but maybe he needed a better interpreter.
Getting rid of Wenger was absolutely, you know, be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Unai Emery, he got, you know, he did quite left him in the
and then he left and he won the Europa League again.
Yeah.
So be careful what you wish for.
Yeah,
exactly.
As I
said to you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, lovely. Have a good time tonight today, and good luck.
Nice to
with
meet
the
you.
match. Okay.
Nice to meet you too, darling.
Nice.
Yeah. So as I was saying, just before we spoke to that lovely chap, is when the league, the top division, was expanded from 20 teams to 22 teams. Chelsea and Tottenham were expected to not be relegated, and there wouldn't be a relegation that year. Now Chelsea, who are in 19th, they stayed in the new division. So the top two teams from the second division were automatically promoted, and then there was like a playoff with the bottom of the top division, which was Tottenham, and the teams below the top two. So they were, and I'm just going to check my notes here. You had they went into ballot with Barnsley, who were third, Wolverhampton Wanderers, who were fourth, Birmingham, who were fifth, although in fact this was later amended to sixth, Arsenal, who were sixth, though this was later amended to fifth, Hull City, who were seventh, and Nottingham Forest in
8th.
No, not 8th, funny enough, 18th. Now I don't actually know why they didn't go to the 8th team. Yeah, it should have been Huddersfield Town, because they were in 8th in the second division. I don't know why, but they went down to 18th. Maybe there was a typo on some sheet or whatever, but it's very strange. Maybe if you know in the comments, just let us know how come that it was the 18th team that went into that ballot to go up to the top division. Anyway, it's all irrelevant, because Arsenal is a team that was voted in the ballot, and Spurs is a team that went down in spite of being in the top division. And it is that the main reason why there is so much hatred between Spurs fans and Arsenal fans to this day. It dates back from 1919. So they absolutely hate one another. That's pretty much where it all started. Most people probably think that it's because it was a South London team that moved up to North London, and this was North London's territory. But in fact, it's mainly because they went down when in fact they should have stayed up, and Arsenal took their place, which was very hurtful for Spurs fans. Now one thing that this stadium has got, they've got a number of statues around the stadium. They've got one to Tony Adams over there, but they've got one to probably one of the most loved figures from modern Arsenal history, Thierry Henry. So maybe we'll just have a quick look at that if we can get past security. We don't have a ticket. I think we'll be fine.
Okay.
And here it is, the famous statue to Thierry Henry. Here we go, the statue to Thierry Henry. Actually, that's not Thierry Henry, is it? That's Dennis Bergkamp. I do beg your pardon, that's Dennis Bergkamp. Well, he's another hero, very good player. There is a statue to Thierry Henry as well.
Is there? Not even done one back home.
We'll find it in a minute, maybe. Yeah, that looks more like him. Yeah, there you go, club legends. You checking everyone going in, or?
Yeah, so we're trying to get as many people as we can. It's like Premier League requirement now.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I'm going to Crystal Palace tomorrow, so I'll probably have the same.
Everyone has to have the test on Wednesday. So
Are you allowed to bring a paper version? Because my phone doesn't hold a charge.
Next week we actually can't. We're only allowing natural flow test. If you can print that out, we probably will be allowed in. So it'll be natural flow test or double vaccinated.
Oh, double vaccinated. I'm double vaccinated.
Yeah, and then.
But can I just bring the paper version? I don't have to bring the phone, do I? Because my phone doesn't hold a charge anymore.
I'm not too sure about that.
Right, you're gonna have to speak to someone in the greenhouse.
Okay, thank you. That'll be right. It's all changing now.
It's starting to rain again. Oh no!
Here we have Herbert Chapman. Herbert Chapman was one of the early chairmen of the club, a very influential character. It was actually we're going to be checking out one of the stations around the corner called Arsenal, and it was actually his idea to get the station renamed Arsenal. It's the only station on the entire network to be named after a football team. I'd note I did not say after a football stadium, because obviously there's a station called Wembley Stadium, but it's the only station on the entire network to be named after a football team. Arsenal Station on the Piccadilly line. We'll be checking that out towards the end of this episode, but this is Herbert Chapman. I'll be talking about him again shortly. Okay, so we are at Drayton Park Station. Now, as you can see, the door is being closed at the moment. Closure of Drayton Park Station during Arsenal home games at the Emirates Stadium. And the reason for that is for health and safety, because they have an island platform which is quite narrow. And the island, obviously when there's lots of crowds at football games, there is a danger of overcrowding, and so when there is a football game, it actually closes. They close this station down during peak moments, so before the match and after the match. They're going to reopen these doors, I believe, at 3:15, which is while the game is being played. But then when the game finishes, the station will close again. Obviously that adds a little bit more pressure onto the other stations around here, such as Arsenal on the Piccadilly line or Highbury Islington that we saw at the start of this programme. But this is the closest station, Drayton Park, to the stadium, which is literally 1 minute away from here. So funnily enough, this actually used to be a tube station until 1975, when it was a terminus of that really strange bit of the Northern Line, the so-called Northern City branch. There's a picture on your screen right now. It was also on the abandoned Northern Heights extension that we told you about in our Alexandra Palace episodes. Now it's just part of the National Rail, not on the tube network at all. It's now on the Great Northern Line that we spoke about earlier. Now this station is in Zone 2, but unfortunately there is no disabled access whatsoever, no toilets for anyone, and it's, as I said, it's not open when you probably would most need it after a football game. A very rainy day in North London. And there, yeah, this is quite funny actually. This place is called Highbury Library. It's a little tongue-in-cheek nod to the nickname of the stadium. The old Highbury Stadium was known as the Library. Away fans would taunt the local fans by singing, "Is this a library? Is this a library?" Because obviously libraries are very quiet. Arsenal fans are traditionally very quiet when they're supporting their team, and library rhymes with Highbury. So it's quite funny that this beer and wine shop just over there has decided to call itself Highbury Library. They're basically owning that nickname, and they're doing very well. It's actually a really interesting place. It's obviously full of Arsenal fans at the moment. It is quite expensive. They have a really, really decent wine list though, of independent wine sellers. And you can buy a bottle to bring home, or you can quaff it there while playing table tennis or listening to some of the vinyl that they have. They've got a huge vinyl collection. Anyway, so we're now going to have a little walk up here and to check out the original location of the Arsenal Stadium, which is so close. Well, it's just ridiculously close. So it didn't move very far, which is really nice for the fans. So there's the new stadium, Emirates Stadium, and we're just going to show you how close it is to where the old stadium was. So there's the new stadium. There's the new stadium, and just down there is the West Stand entrance. Anyway, we're just going to go to the other side first, and we'll cut through to the West Stand. Okay, so as you can see over there, just behind me, is the location of the former Highbury Arsenal Stadium. They still kept it because it's a listed Art Deco building. Absolutely beautiful. It's now, as you can probably guess, luxury flats. I've actually been here as a visiting supporter many times. I've been to both stadia. It's quite weird to see this as flats now. And it must be really weird for Arsenal fans. But what they've done is they've kept the feel of it being a stadium. So over there you have the West Stand, and this is the East Stand. They've kept the whole look and feel. So when you're standing in the middle it's a public square. When you're standing in the middle, you do feel like you're still inside a stadium, because they've kept the four sides, and they've also kept the gaps in the corners, which used to be there in the original Highbury Stadium. So the facade is grade 2 listed, which is why it's still there today, and it's a good thing it is, because it's an absolutely beautiful piece of architecture. Now 2-bedroom flats go here for between about 700,000 and 1.25 million pounds. However, you also do have to pay a yearly ground rent of about £400 a year, plus of course between £2,000 or £3,000 a year extra in service charges. So you do need to have some serious money if you want to move in here. I'm pretty sure that there must be the odd Arsenal player probably living here as well. I wouldn't be surprised. But we're going to exit the other exit.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Going to go right through.
Going to go right through.
Nice. Yeah, sure. No, this is completely changed.
So
We just walked straight
they very
through.
kindly let us through. Normally they don't let people through unless they're residents on match days. I guess a lot of football fans would come here and crowd the place, but as you can see, this is normally an open public square, and you do get a feeling that you're inside a football ground, don't you?
Yeah.
You get a feeling that you're inside a football ground.
That's the West Stand, I take it?
That's the West Stand over there. This is the East Stand.
Just as it was, except now obviously
Done a good job. It's a shame. I mean, I know that obviously West Ham Stadium in Upton Park, or the Berlin Ground, that's all been torn down and turned into flats. Completely lost the whole feeling of that being a football stadium once. Whereas here, you just get the feeling. I mean, you've even got grass in the middle, so you feel that you're actually part of that whole stadium, don't you? It's a fascinating and really clever concept, because they could quite easily have built loads of flats there. They could have built really high, but no, they've tried to keep it feeling and looking like a stadium. It's well done, the architects. Okay, so we're just now exiting the West Stand. And I love the facade of the West Stand. We'll see it now. Hello.
Put up.
Sorry? Put it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Here we go. The left stair.
So here we go.
Behind you there it is.
Isn't that beautiful? Something also very interesting is the old tunnels leading from the old Highbury dressing room to the pitch is still there to this day, and it's used as the hallway for the residents to go out into the garden, which is another nice little touch. So people living there, they sort of, I mean, you know, when they go out to the garden, actually go through the tunnels. Great idea. Okay, so it's 10 minutes to kick off. As you can see, lots of people still coming out of Arsenal Station, just over there. Lots of excited mainly young men, shouting and whooping. Now I'm going to tell you a little bit about this station. It's very interesting. As you can see, this street up there is called Highbury Hill, and this street is called Gillespie Road. Now, what can I tell you about this station? As I said, it's the only station to be named after a football team on the entire network. It used to be called Gillespie Road, and inside you'll find some fantastic tiles which show that the original name of the station, Gillespie Road. Now, we saw earlier a statue to Herbert Chapman. It was pressure from Herbert Chapman in 1932 that the station was renamed Arsenal Highbury Hill. Arsenal brackets Highbury Hill close brackets, and that is Highbury Hill just over there. No idea why it wasn't named Arsenal brackets Gillespie Road brackets. Would have thought that would be a better idea, seeing the station was originally called Gillespie Road and we are on Gillespie Road, but no, it was called Arsenal brackets Highbury Hill brackets. But clearly Herbert Chapman had a lot of clout and a lot of say, and it was his idea to change the station to Arsenal. Now the station dropped the Highbury Hill bit in 1960 or thereabouts, and ever since then it has just been called simply Arsenal. It's on the Piccadilly line, Zone 2. Unfortunately there's no toilets, and there's no step-free access either, no step-free access at all, so not handy at all for wheelchair Arsenal fans. Tough all round, really. They'll have to go to Highbury Islington. It's actually a real shame that it's not wheelchair accessible, because it doesn't seem too hard to do, because most of the access to the platforms is via a sort of a ramp, but unfortunately there are stairs on a short flight of steps on either end of the ramp. So, but it's a slow, gradual ramp. There's no lifts or anything, no escalators, just this ramp, but with these steps at this side and the other side. I imagine it wouldn't be that hard to make it step-free, but it hasn't happened yet. Yeah, another very interesting thing about this station is there is a fence that separates the tunnels, and it's a sort of tidal system. So you've got one side of the tunnel is wider than the other side of the tunnel, and when I say it's a tidal system, depending on how busy the station is, whether fans are arriving or leaving, or whether it's rush hour or not rush hour, the busy area uses the part of the tunnel that is wider, so it moves around. It's a tidal system, that's the only station on the entire network that has this movable tidal system in the tunnels. It's really, really clever. Okay, so just before we leave, just want to tell you about something that's over there. So this is the Gillespie Park, local nature reserve, managed by Islington Council's Nature Conservation Team. Up until the 1960s, this used to be railway sidings, but it's now the Islington Ecology Centre and a really little park. And another interesting thing is that this is a passageway. At night you can walk alongside the railways, well, alongside the railway sidings, and it takes you straight out to Finsbury Park Station. Now, we're not doing Finsbury Park Station at the moment, because we'll be doing that in a separate series on Finsbury Park. You're going to have to wait until we get to F. Yeah, so basically up there is a shortcut to Finsbury Park Station. A lot of people think that they have to go all through the houses and sort of like doing zigzags all over the place, but in fact this is a quick direct route that takes you out to the station, to Finsbury Park Station. Really handy to know. There's a park also just over there. I don't believe it's open at the moment. I think they closed the actual park on match days because they're worried about potential defecation. Common birds of Gillespie Park. Yeah, no. Hello. Are we able to walk around the park, or?
You can walk around the park, absolutely, yeah.
Is that fantastic? Okay.
It's still open, yeah. No
Yeah,
worries.
lovely, because I thought they closed it for football, during football.
They do, and nobody locked the gates today. So.
Oh, right, okay, lovely. We're lucky, we're lucky.
All right, we got lucky.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is normally this is closed on match days, but they forgot to lock the gate. So
I like that.
that's nice. They forgot to lock the gate, so it's open. So we're really lucky.
Parakeet. Bird. Bird.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is. I smell something suspicious.
Yes, they're having a party in there.
I think those are children, though. I don't. Look there. That's a great shot. Very early '80s kind of looking place. My goodness. No wonder they're eating so much.
And it's time for another little ramble through a park. One of Islington's many parks. This is Gillespie Park. Very pretty. And in the background, I don't know if you can hear it, but in the background you can hear cheering because the match has just kicked off. Yeah, so we've lucked out really. We're able to have a little walk through this very pretty and picturesque park. It's actually been a really fortuitous day, being shown around inside Elton John's former gaff, and being able to see the very kitchen where he made his call for help, and seeing the Southampton bus go past just at the right moment. It's been one of those days, and also speaking to that charming Arsenal fan who was really friendly. Yeah. I do apologise in advance if you see any droplets of water on the lens. However, I think that does add to the feeling of today. Such a rainy
It's
and
a winter day.
Winter day.
Not quite winter yet. It's not yet the 21st.
no, winter
Late
next week.
autumn. It's late autumn. Boy, it's starting to really rain, Chris.
Yep.
I think we need to make a move. It's dark too, so. Gray squirrel, dead ahead. Oh, you're missing. You Canadian bastards. Actually, they're probably just North American, aren't they?
Oh, this is actually getting quite slippery.
Yeah, that's. I don't know where that goes, but does it go out on the street? We have to come right back this way, don't we?
Yeah.
I think that's it. Let's go back through.
Let's go back.
This is nice in here.
Yeah. So that's all we've got really to tell you about. Angel, thank you so much for being on this very long journey around Angel Islington. If we haven't covered your area, you're surprised about it, that's because that's going to be appearing in a separate episode. So we will be doing the Clerkenwell area when we get to B for Barbican. I think we're doing Barbican and Clerkenwell together. Obviously Farringdon will be talked about then as well. King's Cross, we'll be doing Euston, King's Cross and St Pancras. So when we get to E, and Finsbury Park we'll be doing when we get to F, and also we've got Holloway and lots of other areas around here that we're going to be dealing with nearer the time. But this is the end of our Angel episode, and we're next going to be moving to Balham. We're going to be talking about Balham. We're going to be talking about Tooting Beck, Tooting Broadway. Yeah, so we're going to be moving to, we're going to be talking about Balham. We're going to be talking about Tooting Beck, Balham, the gateway to the south, as it's humorously known as. Yeah, looking forward to showing you Balham. But we're going to close out this episode with a look back on some of the highlights of our adventures around Angel Islington. If there is anything that you do not recognise, then at the end of this video, in the top right hand corner, you'll see a little button where you can watch the entire playlist of Angel, because there's bound to be at least one episode in there that you missed. And in order that you don't miss these episodes in future, hit that subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button now, and like this video, and share this video, and do all the things that you're meant to do, because we're here for you. And the reason that we're here for you is because we love London. Love your London. Bye.
Oh, it's so naff standing there. God damn it.
I sit and wait. Does an angel contemplate my fate? And do they know the places where we go when we're grey and old? 'Cause I have been told that salvation lets their wings unfold. So when I'm lying in my bed, thoughts running through my head, and I feel that love is dead, I'm loving angels instead. And through it all, she offers me protection, a lot of love and affection, whether I'm right or wrong. And down the waterfall, wherever it may take me, I know that life won't break me. When I come to call, she won't forsake me. I'm loving angels instead. When I'm feeling weak and my pain walks down a one-way street, I look above and I know I'll always be blessed with love. And as the feeling grows, she breathes faith into my bones. And when love is dead, I'm loving angels instead. And through it all, she offers me protection, a lot of love and affection, whether I'm right or wrong. And down the waterfall, wherever it may take me, I know that life won't break me. When I come to fall, she won't forsake me. I'm loving angels instead. Through it all, she offers me protection, a lot of love and affection, whether I'm right or wrong. And down the waterfall, wherever it may take me, I know that life won't break me. When I come to call, she won't forsake me. I'm loving angels instead. From Acton Town to Wimbledon, from Brixton to beyond, come love your London with us and sing with us this song. There's no more smog, but we've a vlog to brighten up your day. Come love your London with us, from Kew to Haringey. Come out with us and play, love your London, have a banana.